So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Giants fans. I hope I've got that in the right order. As you can see, there's only a couple of us on here, but we felt that it was about time that we recorded a new podcast for you guys. So, welcome to all the new Giants fans, the old Giants fans, joined by my partner in crime for this evening, Ryan. Ryan, good evening. How are you?
Yeah, good mate, good. I think we've picked a cracking day to decide to record a podcast with some news that's come out today. I had a look back. I think the last one was about early February, maybe. So yeah, that was a kind of
mid-season review, wasn't it?
Mid-season review. So we're kind of towards the tail end of the season now. Not many games left. One eye on the playoffs and our seeding and stuff like that. So yeah, I think great time to get together.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us a bit of background on where we've been since we dusted the podcast.
So games wise, so since the last time we played, since last time we were on, 10 games. I think 6-4. We've been hit with injuries. I mean, I think Will Lee's missed half of those games. Nate Robinson's missed a couple of them games. 2 losses to Caledonia. Speaking on Caledonia, I know we mentioned it just before we got started, but what a finish at the weekend. And it's great to see the buzz that's getting the league. A lot of attention, a lot of shares and retweets, so more eyes on the British Basketball League. How do people not like basketball when you've got a buzzer beater to win the cup for the first time in 20 years in your home arena kind of thing?
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah, crazy. And we've had some pretty good wins. Sheffield was a good one. Bristol away, that might be the most impressive win of the season for me. Injuries, no bench. Bristol have probably got one of the better home advantages. They're absolutely flying this season, kind of battling Leicester for that second spot in the league. So to beat them short-handed at their place is massive. And then, we've lost out to London. They were pretty impressive, but I think they're just a different level to everybody else in the league this season. And then, a couple of good wins over Newcastle and Bristol at Bellevue. But then, obviously, I know we've got Plymouth coming up on Friday. We're currently 9 down to Leicester, I think. Some big things, but some kind of things to talk about, I suppose. That Bristol win, do you think it's the best win of the season? Or is it a win that's really frustrating because it shows that, minus some injuries, a deeper bench, we could be right up there competing with the likes of Bristol and Leicester?
In my opinion, I think it's one of the most impressive wins of the season. I think you can't take anything away from Sheffield, the win at Sheffield as well.
Yeah.
Sheffield are starting to come into some real good form. They've obviously moved the roster around like a lot of teams have this season, but Sheffield particularly have seemed to be hitting their stride. I mean, they've beat London and Leicester last 2 games.
Perfect time. Right when the end of the season, getting your ducks in a row, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach Atiba Lyons always seems to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Just gets them hitting form at the right point. I think for me the most important wins are the ones coming up for Giants. I think, as you mentioned, we've been hit with injuries. Will Lee being out has a massive impact. Nate Robinson on the rotation has a massive impact. But I think props to some of the guys that have stepped up. I think you kind of expect Taj Green, Ramon Fletcher, Dirk Williams, Anthony Roberson now to be hitting those double-doubles every game. That's kind of an expectation, right?
Yeah.
But you look at Nick Lewis coming off the bench, particularly in that Sheffield game, he was the spark and the firepower that allowed the win to come.
Mm-hmm.
I think Callum Jones has played a solid season.
Massive.
He's had some good minutes. He's not the scoring point guard that we probably hope for, but what he does do is he gives you a lot of breathing space for Ramon and Nick to be able to go and do their work, but also he's so solid on defense.
Oh, brilliant.
And as I've mentioned to you and the guys in our group chat, for me, Anthony Roberson is probably one of the most underrated players in the BBL. He's not talked about enough. He can defend from the 1 to the 5 spot if he needs to. His offensive boards, defensive boards, his ability to take over a game, but silently. He's like a silent assassin. And I think him and the core that Vince has brought in this year really have given a spark to the Giants that you don't see. Don't get me wrong. I wish we'd win games by 15, 20 points, but we're winning or losing on the knife edge every single game. And that for me is what basketball's all about.
Yeah.
It brings you that creativity. It brings you that element for the fans that of excitement and passion and edge of the seat energy. And a shout out from me particularly for all the fans that are in Bellevue at the moment, because it is one of the loudest arenas that you go to across the country. I've visited quite a few this season with away games and picking up bits and pieces for others. But yeah, it's been a pleasure for me to be in Bellevue when it's been some seriously close games. It was really interesting actually. The game we played, the last game that I did, which would have been the Mother's Day game.
Yeah.
The DJ was pretty fresh to basketball, and it was 1:45 to go. We were down by 10, and he went, "Oh, that's pretty much the game." And I went, "Can turn on the knife edge," and we came back and won it by 3. And he was like shocked, like absolutely astounded in terms of how quickly it changed. And I just looked at him and I was like, "That's basketball. That's basketball, and that's why we love it, right?"
Yeah, and that's, I think, especially this season, we've, for whatever reason, found ourselves in a lot of close games, a lot of big shots. I think you spoke about Roberson then, that 3 hit from the corner. You got a really important offensive board, back up and one. And he does a lot of the dirty stuff that people maybe don't spot. But I think, yeah, his defense is unbelievable. His offensive boards, and I completely agree. I think, getting towards award season, out where people start to think, who's going to be in the top 5 of the league, who's going to lead the league in scoring, that kind of stuff. And I think he massively goes under the radar. But I think, yeah, for me, he's right up there. And you can see that pedigree he's got coming from a sporting family, a sporting background. His brother's back in the G League at the moment. So, yeah, you can just see that pedigree every time he steps on the court, and he brings it every time. And I think there was an interview happening after the Bristol game where Ramon said, he does whatever we need him to do, whether it's something that comes naturally to him, whether it's something that makes him uncomfortable. He seems like the kind of guy that asks me to do it and I'll do it. And that's kind of invaluable at the professional level, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other one that you can't sort of take anything away from, particularly in this clutch end of the season, Dirk Williams.
Oh, yeah, he's ridiculous, isn't he?
Just have a conversation about him, mate. Talk to me. Tell me what you found.
So yeah, he's averaging 19, 4 and 3. He's got shooting splits of 46, 44, 73. And I think if you spoke to him and told him that, he'd tell you that he can do better. He's one of the elite scorers in the league. He's one of the most efficient scorers in the league. I think in every game bar 2 this season, he's been in double figures. It's a long old season. We've not had a massively deep bench. Sometimes he's been the only person who feels like he's getting a shot to drop, but it's the clutchness of him as well. It's not just 19 quiet points, and people know what he's going to do. People know he's going to dance on them. People know he's going to hit those step back threes. People know he's going to shoot contested shots. But as good as the defense is, sometimes the offense is just better. And I think he got 31 versus Bristol recently. I think, in fact, half the team were into double figures, and a couple of them got over 20, and he kind of snuck to the lead and got 31. I think Taj was 29. Robeson was maybe in the 20s. So, yeah, I mean, I remember watching London play against us last year at Bellevue and just watching him hit everything. It didn't matter how well we defended him, who we put on him. He just seemed to score everything from everywhere, whether it's mid-range, whether it's getting to the rim, whether it's pulling up from beyond the 3, the red line even, yeah, he's a special scorer in this league, and, long may it continue, and hopefully in Giants green, long may it continue. But yeah, no,
yeah, he's
special scorer.
I think for me, the most impressive part of Dirk Williams' game is that and this sounds really strange, but he can do everything.
Yeah.
He defends well. He can get to the rim. He's bouncy as anything. Yeah. He's one of the
really underrated, I think.
Yeah, he's very athletic, but then he'll drop 6 threes in a row and just be able to shoot the ball consistently over the top of someone with a hand in his face. And I think he's, in terms of his personality and from what I've seen, he's quite quiet in terms of his persona and the way that he comes across. But what he does is balance the team really well. Yeah. Somebody like Taj Green, with his energy, with his exuberance, shall we say, as a first year rookie coming out of the States, he's a lot more vocal with the fans, with the opposition fans, with everybody. Whereas Dirk just goes around and does his business, gets it done. And sometimes you kind of miss how good he is, because he is so just calm and collected with it. And I think having someone like Fletch, from a point guard point of view, being able to find him in the right positions and get him going as he has done through this season, really shows Fletch's caliber as a point guard. But again, Fletch for me I think he leads the league in assists, but actually does so much more than that for the team. He pulls up some clutch shots as well. He gives the opportunity to really open the floodgates when he wants to, but it's just the speed and dynamism of him heading downhill to the rim is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think as well that we've got that really good balance with Fletch, that he can completely run a game and get himself into 11, 12 assists. Maybe he's not bothered the scoreboard too much, and then in the flash of an eye, he's scored more points than he's got assists. He's got a double-double. He gets a clutch steal. He throws up an alley-oop. The energy's back in the building. And going back to Dirk, I was looking at his stats since we were last on. I think the last 2, 4, 6 games, he's shot over 50% from the field. In the last 6 games, 4 or 5 of them, he's shot over 40%. He's shot, 100% from the line in multiple games. And he picks up a few rebounds, a couple of assists, a couple of steals, a block here and there. Like you say, he does it all. I think that's why we're really lucky this season with the Giants team, is that a lot of them do a lot of things. We've not really got many players that are pigeonholed into, this is, you are a 5, you only do this. Most of the players are able to, knit loose off the bench, can come out and score, but he can also run plays. Like say Roberson can get boards as well as hit big shots. Taj can mark a 5, but then also be a threat from the perimeter. And I think, how many teams have got that across the board? It's, we're really quite lucky with the roster and the setup this year.
Yeah, and Will Lee for me, again, William Lee is another one that's probably one of the most dangerous 4s in the league, because he can play 5, he can go to work in the post, he can get his points from that area, but more importantly, he can stretch it out to the 3-point line and consistently hit threes. Yeah. Where you've got somebody like Taj, him, and Anthony Roberson that give you options at 3, 4, and 5.
And are so versatile that if you need to, they can all just click around one. You were saying about leading the league in different stats there as well. If you go on the BBL website, Dirk Williams is 2nd, Taj is 4th, Will Lee is 8th in points, assists. Fletcher's leading the league in assists. Rebounds, Taj in 2, Will Lee in 3, Roberson in 5. Defensively, Will Lee leads it. Blocks, Will Lee, Roberson, Taj, Robertin. It's across all statistical categories. The Giants have kind of stamped the name. Steals, Nick Lewis. You're looking into percentages for Will Lee, Taj Green, Dirk Williams, all in the top 10 in field goal percentage. Dirk's made the most threes this season, and he's 3rd in percentage from beyond the arc. So it's just consistently across the board, having really positive league leading impacts, and I think that'll hopefully hold as good as we get towards the kind of the sharp end of the season.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think actually what a lot of people have criticised and said that actually, the roster is a little bit short. We
know that, it's obvious, we know that.
However, what I think people need to look at is actually the caliber of players, the ability that they all have to be so versatile, that is clearly a statement from Vince of selecting on a shorter roster 4 or 5 players that can do multiple jobs. I mean, obviously we've recently seen the signing of Kofi Josephs. I don't think he's quite hit his stride yet. I think there's been glimpses of brilliance, which we know he can bring. But I think as the season goes downhill towards the playoffs and into that quarter semis, hopefully the final, in terms of the run into the end of the season, I think that's when he will really hit his stride.
I couldn't agree more. You get that sometimes, don't you, where he's joined the team quite late on. He has played some basketball this season. He was over in the Middle East playing. But yeah, I think you're joining a team 3/4 of the way through the season. You're trying to adapt to their way of playing, their philosophy, their on offense and defense. We know that he's a bucket. He torched us at one point. Was it last season or the year before?
Last season, 46 points.
The second highest by a British player in the BBL history. So
first highest.
Is it first highest? First highest. Sorry,
yeah.
First highest. I better get that right, otherwise he'll come for me. But yeah, it's great to see him in Giants green. I agree with you. I think, I think that he needs to get into his stride. There's been a few times he's catching the ball and you think, oh, he's going to pull that, and he doesn't, because he's, maybe he's trying to gel and he's trying to get his feet under him. But he's the kind of player that you need a big third quarter. It's the second leg of the playoffs. You're away at Caledonia, you're away at Sheffield, you're away at Bristol, and you need somebody to come in and drop 15 points in a quarter, and he easily has that in his bag. I think, Dirk has played amazing this season, but to have another wing scorer of Kofi's caliber coming off the bench, I think it will be massive as the playoffs come. And I think that some Giants fans felt like we probably signed Kofi a couple of weeks too late, but I think we got Will Lee back. Everything was going okay. And then obviously since Will Lee's then gone back down, I know Nathan Robinson's obviously had an injury as well. We need Kofi in. So I think, great timing, get him in, get him a few games, get him acclimated, and then, pushing towards the playoffs. But be interested to see how long Will's out for, how long Nate Robinson's out for, whether we can kind of get them back up to match speed. I think it'd be great if we can get them, this week, maybe the next week, get them a few games in before that, playoff basketball really hits. And looking at our standings, in 4th at the moment. There's a few teams around us that have played more games, less games. Where do you reckon we're finishing, Ginge? How do you reckon it's going to shape up?
I think 4th or 5th.
Yeah, that was last season.
With the
same 4th or 5th, and I think we dropped into 5th on the last game of the season. We got beat off London.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm honest, I think with Caledonia taking that W in the trophy on Sunday, that gives them a lot of momentum going into this run-in of games. I don't necessarily think it will hinder them in any way, shape or form. I think it gives them an opportunity to extend their run and gives them the momentum going into their next game. I mean, they don't play now until Sunday.
Right, so that got a good rest as well.
Yeah, they take on us on Sunday.
Right. Well, I think I was looking at the Giants fixtures, and I know we've got Caledonia. I know we've got a London game, a Leicester game, a Cheshire Phoenix game. So we've got a couple of the big boys left to play. If we can, if you can look at London and Leicester, if you can steal a win against one of them, that's huge. Hopefully London will have it so sewed up by that point. Might take their eye off the ball. I think most of the big games have got Leicester at home. I think London, Leicester, Cheshire at home. I think Caledonia's away, but I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Caledonia's away on Sunday. So Caledonia is away on Sunday, and I think it's a tough place to go to, right? Oh
yeah, I think there was a record at one point where the Giants hadn't won away at Glasgow or Caledonia in like a decade. At one point, it was the hardest away place to go for everybody, I think.
Yeah, and I mean Plymouth on Friday night is not going to be no easy feat. I mean, as we're recording this at the minute, they are just going into the halftime break against Riders, down by 10.
Yeah. Oh, good block there, actually. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, from Hassan, who again is another nuisance in the paint, who I think could cause us some problems on Friday. I think if William Lee's back, it changes the dynamic a little bit, because you can leave Taj or Anthony to guard James Hawthorne Jr.
Yeah,
and then William Lee can pick up Hassan and split the work rate coming back from injury with Legend.
as well, I think Legend Robertson has really stepped up these last couple of games. I've been really impressed with his effort on both sides of the ball. 740s, he's going to be a menace at the rim on both ends. But I think, you're seeing him being used much better and also have a little bit more confidence. There's been times when you really want him to scrap for a rebound and just bang it on somebody's head, and there's been a few times that he has gone ahead and done that, and it picks the crowd up. Especially when you've got a short bench and people can see Will Lee sat there. You don't want that. Oh, well, if we have Will Lee, actually, Legend Robertson's more than capable enough to play centre in the BBL. More than capable enough. So to see him really put his stamp on some of these games, I think is great to see.
And if I'm honest, I think actually having Will Lee out has really supported his game. And allowed Legend to come to the forefront and get some more minutes and actually, like you say, have that confidence to do the job that you would expect him to do. And I think he's becoming more disciplined. There's a couple of slips in the last game against the Eagles where he probably shouldn't have gone for the block or shouldn't have gone up with somebody. And you can see how frustrated he gets with himself.
Yeah.
Which I think is being installed by the coaching staff, Paul, Nigel, Vince, sort of talking to him and coaching him in a disciplined way, which is nice to see. Just looking at the fixtures, I mean, April seems pretty slammed for Giants. It's Cheshire, Caledonia on the 2nd, Cheshire at home on the 7th, and then which is the start of the retro series, I believe. The 9th is London, which is a non-retro game.
Right, is that at home?
Yeah, that's at home. And then 14th away at Sheffield, who, as I mentioned earlier, are on that run.
Clicking at the moment.
16th at home against Riders in the retro series.
Yeah.
Which is what we saw last year. The
Will Saunders shot, wasn't it?
Yeah, Will Saunders on the buzzer after overtime, I believe, for 3. I think there's a nice video somewhere of me going mental on that one.
I think as well. I think he hit it, and then they came down the other end and we blocked him. So we got massive cheers out of it. Yeah, it was I think that was the best game of the season.
April the 23rd is then Surrey away. And that's the final game of the season is Surrey away. So you've got Surrey, Leicester, London, Plymouth, Sheffield, and Caledonia,
and a Cheshire Phoenix as well. So it's still quite a few games back, to be fair. Still a few games left. Most of them.
I think for me, if you can take, I think we should take Cheshire.
Yeah.
I think Caledonia on Sunday would be a scoop, and I think that would put us in a really positive position considering they're 5th in the table behind us. London, you never know what's going to happen. Leicester, again, you never know what's going to happen. And I think if we can beat Sheffield away, that sets us up nicely for the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't know how it works in the playoffs with, I know, is it 4th play 5th and whoever is 4th?
Yeah, so first plays 8th.
Yeah.
First plays 8th, second plays 7th, and so on.
Yeah.
And then 4th plays 5th. And I think you either get to choose whether you play home leg first or away leg first, or it works out on dates of the courts being available.
How how's it worked into the next round then? So fourth and fifth play the winner of.
First plays yeah. I think fourth and fifth play the winner of third and sixth.
Right, so we could end up with
No,
a Bristol or a Leicester in the next round if we
potentially. I can't.
Yeah. I can't remember how it was either, but I mean,
First and eighth, second and seventh. Yeah, I think it's first. I think it goes first. If you look at the table in that way, first and eighth at the top, second and seventh at the bottom, and then it goes up in order. So I think we may potentially get London or Plymouth at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we win our remaining games and get ourselves in fourth so that we've got that. I mean, I was at the playoffs last year when we kind of beat Bristol at our place, and then obviously Heartache got blocked, Tyreek got blocked at the end by Del Pesh, and we lost away at Bristol. So, yeah, I'm hoping to go wherever we get in fourth, fifth, wherever we finish, wherever we get, I'll hope to go along as an away fan. But yeah, we need to get there first.
Yeah. And I think from
one game at a time, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that, one game at a time. And I think from my perspective, the way we are with the season and how it's been with a 16 and 13 record, it was only 3 seasons ago that Giants were bottom of the table, pretty much didn't win a game all season, and were, without being disrespectful, a little bit of the whipping boys of the BBL for a number of years.
Yeah.
So actually, if we look at the growth of Manchester Giants over the past 2-3 years, it's been phenomenal. There is an elephant on the court that we probably need to talk about at some point. But I mean, from a growth perspective, the guys that are involved in the club at the moment have really stepped up in terms of bringing elements that weren't there. I think from probably slightly biased, but from a game day perspective, I hope that everybody can see the improvement of a game day experience at the Giants now. I think we've tried and tested quite a few different things over the season to kind of narrow down the recipe to what really works for a Giants game day. And I think it is one of the best fan bases in the league by a country mile in terms of the noise and the consistency of people that continue to come week in, week out. But I think there's work to do. And I think there's work to do across the league in terms of community outreach. I think there's a lot more that goes on that people don't see, that people are unaware of, that happens across the league. But I think British basketball is going from strength to strength. I know this is the Giants podcast, but don't forget Saturday Mystics have got a game as well. So if the guys can get down there to support the Mystics, because I think combining Manchester basketball as a whole, the whole Manchester Magic, Manchester Mystics, Giants, all the different leagues. I saw a stat from one of the articles that was released today that there is more under 16s playing basketball in Manchester than anywhere else in the country. That is a hotbed for talent and bringing through local kids to play basketball. And I know Joe Vorliotis, who's been playing for the Mystics this year, has just committed overseas. There's opportunities everywhere, right? Jordan, Pat Whelan, both from the Manchester area. There's a hotbed of talent there. So I think it's only going to be positive. And just touching on the Caledonia win on Sunday, I think with the investment that they've had and the fact that they've announced that they're going to build their own arena, they're going to have their own community project, Scottish basketball is going to go from strength to strength. And I genuinely believe they will be a force to be reckoned with in a couple of seasons' time once everything settles for them and they know what they're doing. I watched the interview with Gareth Murray after the trophy win, and he said, "I told you." He said, "We had a struggle with COVID and bringing the imports in, but I told you that within 2 years we'd win a trophy," and he's delivered as head coach.
Yeah, that picture of Sloan in the changing room with the net round his neck and the trophy sat in the corner, that is some photo of that. That's probably my favourite one I've seen this season.
Yeah, yeah. And it was a great win for them. And I think across the whole league, I think the investment that 777 have brought in, and hopefully we will see investment across the rest of the league moving forward, shows what can be done when you've got the support and the backing behind you to really grow a BBL club into something really special. And that's not taking anything away from where the Giants have come from in the last 2 years, because I think it is a massive growth, and it's only on the upward trajectory.
Yeah, I think, like you say, that to have gone from the George H. Carnell, where it felt like a largely volunteer effort, and the games, to where we are now, yourself and the match day experience, Elliot and all the stuff he does with hooping and looting, the effort that Dom and the team put in kind of that front of house merch stand. And then, we were in a cup final last year, 2 back-to-back playoff runs. Well, this year and last, we're not dropping out of playoffs this year. So, that's 2 back-to-back playoff runs. It's more than we probably could have imagined a few seasons ago. So yeah, there's an elephant on the court. There's the news that was released today about the Manchester Giants and the BBL and looking for investment and ownership. But before we do that, we've got a very special guest, and we're going to welcome in Coach Vince Macauley.
So we are joined by the man of the moment, Mr. Vince Macauley. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
No, we appreciate your time. We know it's a busy schedule, especially coming up to a game on Friday against Plymouth. We were just talking pre you joining us that they're pushing Leicester quite close. I think it's a 4-point game last time we checked, so it's going to be a tough one on Friday.
Oh, no question. I mean, whenever you have a team that's had a sustained level of losses in the last couple of 2 to 3 games like Plymouth have had, you got to expect a tough encounter. They're going to find a way to come back. Paul James has been around quite a bit.
Yeah, comes back from my Worcester days as well, so I know him quite well. He's not one to go down without a fight, that's for sure. So we just wanted to get into it and ask a couple of questions, if that's okay. So first of all, obviously, from what we're feeling as fans and also part of the setup from my perspective, that the Giants are coming in as underdogs into most games, but actually it shouldn't feel like that. Can you explain why you think that is across the league?
I don't know. Obviously, I don't know how you guys feel on that, and what's making you feel that. We certainly don't feel that. There hasn't been a game we've gone into that we didn't think we could win. So I'm not sure. I mean, I guess there is a lack of numbers on the bench, maybe that kind of situation. But with the quality of player we have and what we're doing, we have no qualms about the situation. I mean, obviously, we're missing a very, very key piece in William Lee. But the guys have shown that, they can carry the fort without him.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about that earlier in the podcast. And in terms of one player that we wanted to highlight and get your view on, was Anthony Roberson. What's he one of the most underrated players in the league?
Oh,
in
no
our
question.
opinion,
No
I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, he is. I mean, the a lot of people wondered why we had him, but this is a guy that I felt, first of all, he's just such a great character, such a great glue guy for our group. And my number one thing this year was to have a group of guys who actually wanted to play and have some fun and enjoy themselves. And he was a guy that I thought had real potential. He's a hard worker. He's multi-skilled. His motor can go on forever. And I think everybody can see, clickety-click from game 1, game 2. And here we are now, and he's hitting game winners, and he's getting, double-doubles, and he's a beast on the boards. I think he's the second leading field goal percentage in the league behind Sam Decker. He's just a tremendous guy to have on your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And going into this playoff time, clutch end of the season, how do you reflect on the season so far, and what would you consider a successful season for the rest of the year?
I mean, first of all, we're not really reflecting back at the moment because we still have a whole bunch of games that we need to win. Our goal coming in this season was to be in the top 4 and challenge for a title. We're in the top 4, but actually we want to see if we can get out of the top 4 and get into the top 3. We think there's a possibility of that. We've got the head-to-head on Bristol. We're not going to get the head-to-head on Leicester, but they've still, both of them got a number of games that are critical to play. So we feel we can get into the top 3. What is success? I think that in itself would be success. I mean, obviously, off the floor, there's been a lot of stuff to clean up and tidy up and bring some pride and energy back to the team and the fans to feel connected again. And I think we've done that. We spent a lot of time doing that. So I think just being able to go out there and be competitive in every game and put ourselves in a position to win is a success. I think, I'm not going to harp back on the injury to Will and stuff like that, because everybody's had some serious injuries to players, but obviously his injuries came at key times that put us out of some competitions. But, we feel in a good place right now. We feel that with the games we have left, we can get ourselves to that position. And then for the run in the playoffs, we don't fear anyone at all going into the playoffs. We feel we're going to do what we've been doing, which is try and get 100 points, shoot 43s at 40%, and if we can do that, it doesn't really matter who's on the other side.
And I think just something from my point of view is picking up on that energy of shooting 43s, getting 100 points. It seems like it's a different brand of basketball that I've seen in Manchester since you came in. And I think it brings a much more of an excitement for the fans. Some heart attacks, I think.
I was going to say, maybe that's where the panic comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for somebody that's been involved and been that close to the team in the sense of the game day experience, you really feel the energy coming off the guys when somebody hits a three. We were talking earlier about the Robertson clutch three against Newcastle. Dirk's done it on a number of occasions. Fletcher's come out. Taj has come out and brought something. And it seems that it doesn't matter which player it happens to be on the night. Somebody always manages to go off for 30, 20, 25, 30 points. And actually it's celebrated as if it's a team win. It doesn't matter who goes off. And that energy within that is obviously something that you've brought to the table from where we've seen you change the ethos of Manchester basketball, as it were.
Yes, I mean, yes, it's a completely different way. I mean, I leant towards that within what we were doing in London, and I felt that with a bit more time, we could have got to a more efficient version of that. I think here, it's something I had to do, because obviously coming in from a zero start, with practically nobody coming back from last year, that's always tough. A rebuild is very, very difficult, especially, in the city where nobody is from, and I'm not from. It's different if I'm putting a team in London or putting a team in Milton Keynes. I know every nook and cranny, but over here, it's a bit more difficult. So the big and number one priority was to challenge London and Leicester. We couldn't come out with a team that looks like London or Leicester, because we wouldn't be able to afford it. We wouldn't be able to match up, and we would lose those games. So, the idea was to come out with a team that was going to be quite different, give some mobile big men for the big men at London and Leicester to chase around, who can all hit threes, be slippery, have a floor general that can get us into gear in Fletcher. Obviously Dirk was always, once he became available, was always going to be on my number one hit list. And then see what else we could find, being able to pick up someone like Nick Lewis, initially Corey Johnson. I had all high hopes that Corey would turn into another Dirk, and I still believe that sometime he will do. And let's go out there and play a completely different way. What that will do is keep us in games, so that's for sure. And get the fans to come and actually enjoy their basketball, and also then you look at the players, and the players want to enjoy their basketball. And right now, this group, I've had some really, really good groups in my long career in basketball. The group that I had in Milton Keynes with Sean Jameson and Robert Youngblood and Tony Windlass was an amazing group. The group in London that we won the championship, the league with Justin Robinson and Paul Gweed and Curve Bristol. And even the very first team I had in London, which was an all-English team with Lauren Irish and Teo Gidengbe and Orlan Jackman. Those teams have a special connection, and this team is exactly like that.
That's
great.
And
it definitely shows. Ryan, I know you've got a couple of questions for Coach as well.
Yeah, so we mentioned that underdog mentality, and I think sometimes it's because the games are so close. I think that's what it is. I think the fans feed on that nervous energy, and it makes them feel like, will we, won't we? Ginge mentioned before, it'd be a lot easier on all our heart rates if we won by 15 or 20. But you watch that shot of the weekend from the cup final, and that's what basketball's all about, isn't it? It's about those moments.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned about we've had some injuries. The bench has maybe been a little bit lighter than we would have liked at some point during the season. How difficult is it for you as a coach to kind of to manage that shortened roster compared to other seasons where maybe you've had a deeper team?
Yeah, it's a different challenge. I mean, I've in the past had shortened rosters as well, but I think this is probably a slightly more veteran type because we got a nice mix of sort of veteran players and young rookies. I think we mentioned Robertson and obviously Taj. They've come in and they just want to learn. They're sponges. They want to learn, and they've got people like Dirk and people like William and Fletch to learn from. Who are so delighted to be able to share what they have. So that helps a lot. But obviously, you still got to think about things like practice and load management and stuff like that. So we've had guys coming in here and help us out in practice. We've got young Joe from Manchester Magic. He works out here with us. We have young Josh from our junior Giants. He works out here with us. Kofi has been working out with us for a period of time before he decided that, he was going to stay here in Manchester. And so that's been giving us enough to have enough guys in practice to go, because that's the biggest challenge. But on the floor, I expect a lot from the guys, and they know that. And basically, they just get out there and rotate and get into it. And sometimes I have to go with a different lineup. Sometimes, it's Nick. Sometimes it's Callum. But again, you bring Callum on, and the all-time leading scorer for Manchester Giants, and he's a veteran and he knows exactly what it's all about. So, I think all in all, we've got quite a strong backbone within the team. And to the point where the short numbers. I mean, I think there's probably one or two games where the short numbers actually caught us out, but otherwise we've been able to disguise it.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned Kofi joining kind of as we're getting down to the business end of the season. We spoke before about the fact that he's just a great scorer and has proved it when he was with Plymouth. And he's the kind of player that you need a big quarter, you need 15 points to pull it back, and he can go out and turn a game on its head straight away. What are you hoping that Kofi will offer the Giants as we kind of move towards playoff basketball?
Well, I've been so impressed by Kofi, I have to say that, because, what you just described is probably what everybody would expect from Kofi. But what I'm seeing from Kofi right now, he's our number one cheerleader. He loves the way we play. He's right behind everybody. He's playing defense. I mean, in the game here against London Lions, he's guarding Decker. I mean, he's running up and down the floor. If we need a bucket, we know he can get a bucket. But he's not out here launching shots. He's out here playing as a team. And I think that's our strength. That's why when teams go to scout us, it's like, let's stop Fletch. Yeah, go right ahead. Oh, let's stop Dirk. Well, go right ahead. Stop whoever you want. It doesn't matter, because any one of us can go for numbers, depending on what's happening on the floor, and, I love the myth that we don't play any defense. The only difference is we don't want to play 24 seconds defense. We just want to play 4 seconds defense.
Yeah. If you can get the ball back quicker and get out the other end, you'll win more games than you'll lose. And then I suppose the last question for me, obviously today there's been some news come out about kind of the league seeking owners for Manchester Giants. We only know what's been shared kind of on various articles across the internet. Is there anything more you can tell us? Anything you can tell the fans?
Not really, but there's certainly nothing for the fans to be worried about. I think the club behind the scenes has needed a bit of direction. So, that's why I came here in the first place, to try and do that. And I think we've kind of straightened the ship. Going forward, we're going to need investment. I mean, we're not here to make up numbers. I mean, we want to be like London. We want to be out there playing in Europe. I mean, we've got, one of the best cities in the country. We've got, 2 arenas over here, anywhere between 14,000 and 22,000 seats. We've got, an airport. We've got the best football teams in the country, apart from Liverpool. And, I think, we want to be up there. So we're going to need investment. This club here is going to need investment to do that. We've got to make sure that those people who are outside of basketball see the value in investing in this sport. I mean, there's many people right now investing in this sport across the board. The BBL is going places. The WBBL is going places. The British players are going places. So if I'm a Giants fan, I'm not worried. It's only going to get better from here on in.
Excellent. I'm sure they'll love to hear that. And I suppose kind of one of the last questions, looking at the game coming up this weekend, how's Will Lee doing? How's Robinson doing? How soon can we kind of expect those guys to be back on the court and back playing for the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, the good news is they're both in practice. I'm hopeful that they will both play at the weekend. It's possible maybe only one of them does, but they're almost right there. But right now, as you said, we are at the money time, and all of these wins matter to us. I'm expecting a fully charged Plymouth team in here on Friday. the game against Glasgow. I mean, they're going to be on such a high. We didn't accredit ourselves well a couple of weeks ago when we went up there, so that's a point to prove. And there's a head-to-head to be won down there. So two very tough games. So having those two back would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely, especially as we were looking at the fixtures before. And April's a busy month, but it appears that a lot of the big games are at home. I think we've got London at home, Leicester at home, Cheshire at home. So yeah, kind of our destiny's in our hands. The fans at Bellevue are, I think, the best fans in the league. So yeah, if we can make it loud and uncomfortable for any away players that are there, I'm sure we can steal some wins and get into that top three that you mentioned before.
Yeah, I mean that you're right. A very, very knowledgeable group of fans. I've been amazed, and the noise, incredible. Like you said about Robeson's game winner the other day against Newcastle, the roof nearly blew off. I mean, quite amazing. We've had a number of full houses here. That's been great to see. I think yeah. I'm just delighted not only to be here, to be the one to do it, but also being able to look out in the crowd and see some of the old Giants players all coming back, all wanting to be visible and see what's going on here. That to me is very nice to see.
Yeah, it's a testament to what you and the team are building, both on and off the court. Is there anything else from yourself, Ginge?
No, not for me. I think just a real pleasure for you to join us this evening, Vince. We know that how busy your schedule is at the moment, especially going into playoff basketball time and getting the guys ready. So really appreciate your time.
No problem. I mean, to be honest, I was just out there on the court with the kids from Milton Keynes because they're playing in their finals here tomorrow, and then also on the other court, the ladies from Solent, they were getting a couple of shots in ahead of their WEABL game tomorrow, and then of course we're going to welcome James Vera embarking here against Maya Scoff, playing in the men's EABL final. So there's a lot of basketball going in here, and that's what I really love about being in Manchester.
Yeah, you mentioned that before, didn't you? That I think there's more under 16s play basketball in Manchester than any other place in the country. So it just shows it's a hotbed for talent and a hotbed for opportunity to be out there and be hooping. Yeah,
no, definitely. And of course, on the third court is the over 40s, but I think I've passed that.
I've got one eye on that. I'm in my early 30s, so I've got one eye on the over 40s.
Well, I tell you what, I peep round the curtain. You'll be fine.
Excellent. Well, thank you very, very much for your time this evening. As Jim said, we know how busy you are. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll see you at the game this coming Friday.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much.